Oh hey, there's an extra button that you have to hit even to be able to do this. Wow. So, hi. Welcome to the Airwindows Q&A stream. Give me a second and I'll get you on screen. Pop out chat. It's going to be in a horrible deformed... Yeah, so apparently what YouTube is doing is they've decided to make my life miserable by making everything much worse and not work. I really don't get it. I really don't get it. They're trying to burn people out. They are trying to kill their creators so that they can replace them with robots. Okay, maybe not. Let us bump. Get that together and resize and reshape it. So hey, now I can see a stream. Woot. And if I'm not mistaken, now you can see me and hear me. And the stream is up and running. I have done the start the new stream. It auto-generates a new key, so you can never just go online by running your software again. You have to punch new stuff in. And then you also have to hit a go live button. And the whole thing is a hilarious nightmare of stupid, as YouTube enjoys so much. Let's change the size. I'm trying to get it so that the size of this is as close as possible. Oh wait, maybe I've got a control here. Don't mind me, we're going to just mess with stuff. It says show windows with empty names, show window shadow. That's not what I was looking for. Transform. How about reset transform? Okay, that ain't so bad. I had it set to a transform, but I'd rather just make it be the size of things. I'm glad to see people are greeting each other and saying hello, because I can't do that for you right now. I am derping around with my settings. And let me goose my volume levels just a hair. It's probably loud enough, but whatever. I got my wood stove going because it was absolutely freezing. I was kneading this big old heavy robe. And I can tell you guys what I was doing on Sunday, if you like. And that might be kind of fun. Because I said that I was doing many hours of driving and that it was stressful dealing with the broken plugin and getting it fixed and working, which it seems as if I've successfully done, so that's cool. But I didn't tell you where I went with those hours of driving, so I could probably do that. I went to a Boston modular meetup, which was very nice, really. It was a crew much like the crews I have come to accept or get to know. And very cool. So if anybody mentions that, I can talk about it more. I also was going to do something else. So let me see, hide the chat over here. Go to this, and I'm going to calculate on the fly how many minutes this is, although I may consider it as starting at 11, because I was already trying to make this work by 11. I don't know how much I need to pay for YouTube's sins. as far as them making me work extra hours. What was I going to do? Okay. I was going to go to the Patreon. I was going to get a number. So. Yep, about the same. Hour and 35 minutes it's going to be today. And I was also going to do something else which I might be able to do on the fly in terms of preparation for other stuff we're going to do. Oh, David, hard to say. Basically, David, the thing is, and I've also come up with an idea which might help one of the things you were volunteering to do. If you ask for something, you're not necessarily going to get it, but you're not necessarily not going to get it. So don't worry about that. Essentially, the best way that I can operate is to be relatively immune to people asking things. But I mean, the nice thing is when somebody came and was like, "Why don't we have a inverse focus?" And like I said in the video, it's like, "Oh, that's a stupid idea," and then I went and did it. The inverse focus there. The person showed me a graphic of a measurement of distortion for Neve transformers and showed that there was a thing where the distortion increased in the lows and the highs. And me being me, I knew that that was because of transformer core saturation, and a couple of other reasons. But being shown the evidence that the thing was happening. My cable's twisty. What am I going to do about this? I know, I'll take it and flip it. Being shown the evidence that the thing existed was enough. Whereas somebody demanding, you need to make me a plugin that is focused except for that it boosts the lows and the highs wouldn't have worked because that isn't what it turned out to be. Yeah, don't mind me messing with the mics and things. That's where the inspiration for it came from, was not being told, add this feature to it so that you can boost the other part, but look, here's how this happens. And I knew that transformers saturate, meaning that the amount of lows you can get through them gets less, and everything else kind of came from that. For instance, I was using the density algorithm, but the density algorithm without external clipping causes the volume level. I have my paper and pencils. I have all kinds of visual aids here at the moment. So, for instance, this is the thermometer that yeeted itself off of my speaker and smashed, dumping its liquid into my mixing board on stream one day on Tuesday. So I had to repair it. You repair these by filling it back up with a water isopropyl alcohol combination and like balancing the combination until it's exactly the right temperature. And then it's filled in with a stopper and taped over, and yeah, there it is. I think the insides of it might be getting murky. It's not ideal. And obviously it wants to eat itself over. Again, I love that millennial phrase of eating things. For some reason I just find that the funniest thing ever. So here is a handy stream thermometer, and this is how hot it is in the room. I do have the wood stove still going. I'm getting swarmed with questions, and I can't actually even see them very well because these glasses aren't ideal for that. If the screen was closer, I could see them, but then I can't physically move it through the camera. The mixer was my older mixer, and it is still okay. In fact, I'm going to be giving it to a friend that I'll be doing a different kind of stream pretty soon with. I'll be talking about that a little bit, although I probably should field questions first. Let me try expanding this window a little bit. Much like this. In fact, yay, changing the transform seems like a really good idea, because now we can actually represent the letters properly instead of having them all distorted. Hey, I learn something new every day. Eventually I'll be able to do this kind of thing and have it work. Woot! Are my mic levels okay? Yeah, it seemed to be. So, I don't remember what I was going to draw. I should just look at the chat to the best that I can. I have to scroll up before it gets away from me completely, as I'm absolutely losing everybody. Shooting out coils against the other stuff. Cool, I'd be interested to see how that worked, because coils is my take on it. People greeting each other, which is good. I like that. Bo has got Anna and talking to Meshuggah. That's cool. I like their music, assuming it's the band you're talking about. Swiss Army knife version of Focus. Nope, there was never going to be that. You should totally check out the source, though, because if you want to build stuff like that, you're welcome to, and I'm making it as available as possible. I'm going to need to lean over here so that I can actually see what people are doing. Pix the Muzzle, David Pixley, missed the last couple of live streams. Oh, we missed you, but I'm going to see whether I can't get another thing going. If you can't do mornings, I'll have an evening thing that might be more accessible, and you can be part of that, but I'll talk about that in a bit. It'll be good if you have, as you do, the ability to stream voice. Airwindows question. I see the oranges, so that helps. Old school versus new school. I am all old school, and there's a number of reasons for that. Old school is basically balance the levels of stuff. They recorded things, and the equipment was so primitive that all they really knew was we put up a microphone and recorded everything, and then therefore how do we balance the levels of the one or two tracks that we have? And they would do that. And so it was really quite primitive. And that's basically no EQ, no compression, no anything. And the less you do to a sound, the more like emotional aspects and textural things come through. And texture is not the same thing as this frequency, that frequency. You break stuff into like mid-range and bass and treble and stuff like that. Start fooling with it, you start hearing only that rather than textures like sandy or metallic or something. I've been using the Rhodes over there into a API pre, because that's my way of amplifying it, and recording that direct in some recent streams. And I found that where I was previously going into a mixer channel that was able to amplify it itself, but also had built-in EQs, I ended up using the EQs, and it would always boost this or cut that or so on. And especially I could use a little bass, so there is that. But when I cut that back, I found that the color of the Rhodes comes through more distinctly because I'm not equalizing it. And this is, I'm talking about analog EQs, but still, even using analog EQs, something is still lost. And part of it is because with both analog EQs and typical digital EQs, as in not phase linear, I think is the key there, you wind up having phase smearing And that does get in the way of the textural things I'm talking about. If you do linear EQs, you don't have phase mirroring, but you have pre-ring, and that's even worse to my ear. So the thing about it is old school is doing some of that stuff, and sometimes they didn't even know they were doing it or why. It's just that's what was available then. And you move into the new areas of control and being able to do so much, and more and more is lost until you have these sort of collages of sound paintings all in different frequencies and stuff that convey different things, but some very fundamental things are like literally totally gone. And that's what I don't like about plugins like Soothe, where it's like, well, clearly you want to remove all the resonant things, and then you got to have this much bass and this much treble, so we'll just automatically make it exactly the amount that is supposed to be there. Everything becomes kind of a gray paste, and the textural things are replaced with texture of this is the recording studio doing its thing. So that's old school versus new school. And I'm very much strikingly old school, partly because there's less of it about, but partly because it's what I actually like. Pipeline for new plugins, wait and see. Lyra, words of review on the Lyra 8 are, yeah, I still like it. Interestingly, what I've done now, and it may or may not be possible to show it after I kill the microphone, but I am patched into everything. I have it patched into the Moog. I had been running the output of the Moog into the external input. Essentially, I've got my output coming out of the headphones, but so I'm taking headphones for the main output of it, but then the output that you're supposed to use, I was running it through a flanger set to chorus or whatever so that I could have a pitch shift, and then running that back into the external input, which means you're elaborating any filter feedback is getting exaggerated because it's feeding back on itself, and any pitch change becomes a sort of regenerating pitch change. And I was using a flanger that didn't have a level set, so it was always too much, and I was struggling to do it. Well, the Lyra doesn't have a all wet, actually I think maybe it does, so I'm good. The Lyra has a external input where you can run stuff through just its LFO-able delay settings. So I set it. It has two delays. So one of them is set for a rather fast slapback with some pitch change on it, which is essentially a chorus. And then the other part is just a longer delay. And I've run that in the effects loop, and I can use the volume level of the Lyra as the regeneration in the effects loop of the Moog, and run the Lyra's sounds through the Moog's filter as an external source. So that is now my recipe for madness there. With a bit of luck, maybe you'll hear it on Tuesday. If you really want, you could hear it now, but the point of this is for me to try to answer questions, so honestly, I probably shouldn't. But, yeah. New plugins. Okay, I will concede that the new 2-tape is in the pipeline. I'm not going to say that it's like really high up in the pipeline because I got a lot of stuff to develop to do it properly. And psychological warfare has nothing to do with my muse or my subconscious or any of that. No amount of talking about that is going to change whether I'm able to approach it or not. So that'll be meaningless. Turning around inverse focus as coils quickly. Well, one of the reasons that that's easy is because it's like, okay, let's have the same plugin but the opposite, and then give it to me as a option. And options are sometimes a really bad thing, because it makes the plugin unfocused diffuse, and you're never sure what you're getting because it tries to do everything. So, but since it was based on the same basic concept, I can use the previous plugin as a template. So that's sometimes handy, is being able to do related variations. And that's why I turned around so fast. Although you notice it still beat me up really hard because I was trying to do it and then it did not work and there's a bug. So there's that. Ahmed is jesting about when I have just one patron paying just $1. I probably would have had to stop doing this by that point, but no, it would not be just 1 minute. I don't honestly anticipate that ever happening. Like the way, I mean, I suppose if Patreon stops, it'd be like, okay, they went out of business owing me thousands of dollars, therefore I'm getting nothing and therefore I don't have to stream, but I probably wouldn't. It expands in a pretty steady way. Like if you're doing Patreon and actually get some traction because you're doing something that people want to encourage on that level, it seems as if, visibility is the main thing. And since I don't advertise, acquisition of people seems to be just this kind of steady flow, and it keeps gradually increasing at about 20% a year or so. And yeah, so that was a joke anyway. So I repaired it. It's not actually, if it fell over and broke at this point, I don't think it would break anything. The previous time it was literally on top of one of my monitor speakers and vibrated until it fell over onto the mixing board, and I didn't actually stop streaming. If you search the old streams, and I think it might have made it into one of those, the last time instead of doing the evergreens, I was making playlists, and so I made a bunch of playlists. I'm probably going to use that for the new stream idea. I'm probably going to have background music because essentially when I can come up with original copyright-free, at least as far as YouTube is concerned, technically it belongs to me, background music of whatever kind that is like 8, 12, 16 hours and up, I can take advantage of that. There are streams that I watch, like there's a gamer stream from a group called Loading Ready Run, and they like using for their Minecraft streams this sort of chiptune kind of music that seems endless, but it's also a little bit repetitive. And the deal with that is they get to use that because that's copyright-free stuff, and I don't have to pick chiptune stuff. I could pick sort of dub techno-y stuff or whatever. I've got a number of different genres in those playlists. And also what I'll be watching for is if anybody actually likes the playlist, or if anybody is actually watching the playlist and playing them through, at that point I get to see which types of music are catching on and which are not. For instance, if you love the space ambient, I had like 2 out of the entire group of things. I ended up with like 2 space ambient things that were worthy of the name, and everything else was some kind of beat-oriented thing. And so if people wind up playing the heck out of that and it winds up getting billions of plays, clearly I'll be motivated to do more because it's just one of the kinds of things that I can do. Yeah, it was the Roland that fell over. Ahmed, you know that the saying is everything's a dildo if you're brave enough. You also know the saying is YouTube is now freaking out over children, so if I say fuck on stream, they're presumably going to assume that I'm serious about how the stream was not marketed to children, and I'll probably be dodging another bullet that way. So essentially we get to swear, or you guys, as long as you're not being mean, I'm not offended by you getting frisky or weird or naughty or talking. If you filled this with semen, it would not work because the density of the liquid is wrong. So sorry, hard luck. It would also take a really long time. I'm not really a little pony, so I couldn't do that much. And if you want to make jokes about my butt, well, I do exercises. I've gone down in weight to a 34 waist, so I actually do present a reasonably good butt these days. Probably as good as I ever have. And a real question, how does Soothe Gullfoss differ from Deep Bass? They're completely and utterly different. Soothe is almost like one of those FFT things where they're measuring all the different bins, all the different frequency levels, and amplifying stuff if it seems to be dropping out. And if they find stuff that's, quote, too loud, they'll cut it back. You can also exaggerate it, but I think people normally don't do that. Whereas D-Bass is a de-esser. Totally different things. Also, if this doesn't fall from a height of about 2 feet, it's probably not going to break again. But we'll see. I'll find somewhere to put this that's reasonable. Maybe over by the coils and sofas thingy. No, I wasn't going to draw the idea behind coils. I don't remember what I was going to draw now. I have it available for, we got another couple of minutes more than an hour to go. So basically, if I do come up with something that I need to draw, I will draw it. Oh, I can also show you, this is one of the things I was going to do, if not draw. I got headphones. I've decided that these are the ones that I want to use for critical listening. So I replaced the ones that stick black stuff on my ears because they were old and decrepit and falling apart and didn't actually sound. I got some Grados. These are the little green Grado in-ears. And if I put them in, I'll be able to hear what the Lavery is doing, and I may need to fool with settings and things. But one of the things I'm going to need to do is for the Wednesday morning stream that replaces the Evergreens thing, I'm going to need to be able to play stuff like SoundCloud while talking about what I'm hearing. And so I've actually got SoundCloud loaded up while also running the live streaming thing. And what I can do is fire that up, like kill the level so it isn't too loud and messing with me. I've got that switched away so I'm not going to get feedback. And I can test out whether or not we're hearing what the computer is playing. If I can do that, I can do what Deadmau5 was doing as far as playing people's music and commenting on it. And I can start by playing snippets off of the playlist that I just made, and in so doing, I'll be able to test out what that is. And I'd be able to play anything off the internet that's not YouTube content IDable. So I would have to trust people that the stuff that you're suggesting is not going to give me problems. Generally, SoundCloud is going to be safe. Other stuff that is on YouTube should be safe. And we'll just see. But that's something that I can do within the next hour, and we'll work out how to make that happen. I never did get the graphs. Sorry. I'm looking up here and I'm losing stuff off the screen. Eventually we're going to get to where I cannot do the catch up anymore. Yeah. No more coils inside of Utilize. You can do that if you like. It's not going to help. Mutated version of coil. Well, saturation is already going about as high as you can get. You just can't hear it. I've never heard of a Whittler. I'm not using Logic. I'd be really surprised if Putin was here, and he wouldn't be welcome because I think he's a jerk. There's a lot of politicians are jerks. Yeah. Oh, I'm on Top Chat. You know something? there's no reason not to switch to all chat. If that becomes a problem, I can always go back. But I handle trolls differently from many people. So yeah, there's no charts. Eventually I will get where I can measure stuff would have to develop. Well, I'm going to talk about things for the time being. Pixel sorting, nope, no sorting plugin. I can't even promise that at this stage. I see no way of going forward with it, sorry. SoundCloud's audio quality is junk, but if you pay them, you can host gigabytes upon terabytes of files there. So it's actually a pretty damn good music hosting service. If you're doing a bunch of long form 2496 stuff where all your files are like 2 gigs in size, you might end up having more stuff downloadable on SoundCloud than off of your own personal computer. I have most of my archives of the stuff that I've been doing in live streaming available on SoundCloud. It's not even on my computer because it winds up taking up so much damn space. Adam Neely's music composition is timbre. I think that could be true, but people are usually doing timbre using new studio techniques and modern DAW stuff, and that is a timbre in itself. So they're restricting everything inside one genre of ways of getting timbre. I'm demonstrating other ways of getting timbre in the more old school way, and that is a distinct timbre that you can't necessarily just model by band limiting stuff using digital EQs and so on. So if the new thing is timbre, then I'm in with a chance of doing distinct ways of causing that and can teach you how to do the same thing. So that's cool. You know, I do not remember what the vocals in Queen's Crazy Little Thing Called Love sounds like. I do know that they liked doing something related to my talk about many different kinds of microphone techniques. They did use that technique of having 2 mics out of phase nearby and the cancellations that causes. And they could frequently have all of them singing onto one mic, so they stack vocals hugely and using air as a mixer. But doing that also means you can use multiple microphones and techniques like that. And if they put them out of phase, they get that really high frequency shimmery kind of quality. So that is one thing that you should look into as far as doing stuff like that. Stephen talking about use of wet dry and mixing versus parallel overlaying effects. Patron supported critique of music. I do intend to do patron supported critique of patrons' music, and I'm going to be testing that out because I want to involve people and I want to have it be live, YouTube live streamable. Even though YouTube is trying to make my life miserable by forcing me to punch in new stream keys literally every time I stream, and demanding that I use new live streaming dashboards where everything's changing and moving around all the time. That's a worst case scenario for me. That makes things much harder for me. But, oh well, there's nothing I can do about it. I am powerless over what YouTube chooses to do. So there's that, and I do want to move to stuff where people can have their music heard on my stream. And I can talk about stuff that's accessible rather than talking about stuff like this is what you would get if you had the original records and a fancy playback system like my little counterpoint tube-powered vinyl preamp and all that kind of stuff. I like being able to demonstrate that, but at the same time, and I won't ever completely stop doing that, but it's having to go way back because it's proving more difficult for me. And I have to watch my own well-being. So there will be more stuff. If people ask for specific evergreen stuff that they want to hear and it coincides with stuff that I also care about, that might be showing up. Or special gifts, probably not Patreon points, but who can say? These are all different kinds of things. I just have to balance it. I have to do it in a sort of way where it's maintainable. A Whittler is a analyzer. Well, that's cool. I certainly have the technical capacity to launch other windows and stuff, so I'll make a note of that to look into it, because if there's a suitable analyzer, or if I ever develop a program that does that, then I'd be able to use it. I haven't, and I see no immediate way for me to do that, so yeah, Whittler, and that's a Twitch channel. I'll check that out. Remember that some of the metrics that you'd be seeing with people using analyzers are not useful. These metrics will make you do the new school of mixing. They will show you stuff that you will say, oh, here is what is wrong. This frequency is missing. I'd better add it on the general mix or something like that. And sometimes that's the worst thing you could possibly do. So my advice is not necessarily to get the right spectrum analyzer and then do all my analysis based on that. We will see. So before things scroll too fast, let me catch up on Stephen's remarks. Again, as things expand, I will get to a point where I can no longer scroll back. So I better get ready to just keep reading like a fiend as fast as I can. I wonder whether I can increase the size of this lettering. Let's find out. McGurd, I can. Look at that. We can have large print. Check that out. So when a signal changes psychoacoustically artifacts, yeah. Okay, we can certainly talk about that, but you don't want to make your mixing decisions based on what psychoacoustic artifacts you think things are creating. That is for encoder designers to worry about, rather than music making. Granted, unintentional artifacts, wet dry with tape flutter is very definitely one of those. Reaper is the platform that I'm using for essentially very rudimentary stuff like streaming or demonstrating plugins. I have not yet got into using it as a music development environment. It's not really a development environment for me at all, although I know that it can be. And I'm not really using it as a DAW because I'm not really using a DAW. I'm using hardware and running through a physical mixer and capturing into 2-track on the computer, because that's my target for the plugins that I do, is to have them live up to that standard. I need to be able to listen to the plugins and go, wow, that still sounds like a plugin. What must I do to get it to perform better? Six coils, go ahead. Knock yourself out. Yeah, hey Renee, I'm not following your language super well, but because I took French in elementary school and it didn't really go very far. I could possibly understand bits of what you say, but I'll do my best. Focus and coil probably could work. Here's what should happen if you're taking individual plugins like that and using them, like focus and coil. And this sheds light on why I design things the way that I do. Coil's like a transformer thingy. So what it does is it should give you a sound like analog modeling of a transformer. Focus is not an analog modeling thingy. Focus is psychoacoustic. It's based on Fletcher-Munson curves. And it's letting you zero in on a band of mid-range and saturate that up in level to enhance its clarity and the ability to hear things. So what you should be able to do is take those two plugins. It doesn't matter that they operate in similar principles. They should do the tonal things that you're familiar with. Focus should give you that mids boost clarity, and coils should give you that sort of analog-like tonality, and both of them should react the way that you expect for fiddling with them. You should not have to care about whether they're doing similar things or based on the similar thing. They should be black boxes where it's like, oh, I want more mid-range presence. What can I do with that? Oh, hey, focus. That's magic for doing that. And what you do is you do that, and then you approach each of the plugins for doing what you're familiar with, and it does the thing that you expect it to do. Now, streaming from SoundCloud is, well, dude, listening to live streams off of YouTube is going to be super challenging anyhow. There's nothing I can do about that. Nothing will make YouTube streaming really be high quality. And I can stream off of SoundCloud through YouTube, and you'll still get the basic idea of what I'm talking about. And it's sort of very internet. It's like, this is what these large services want you to be putting up with. SoundCloud, sometimes you can download the high quality stuff, so you can do that. I mean, I make all of my stuff downloadable in 2496. So there is that. There's nothing you can do about the loss in quality any more than playing stuff off of YouTube that is not Content ID on also a YouTube stream. But the idea is that you should be able to hear the rough gist of what I'm talking about. I'll have like my little headphones. These are little Grados. And with that, I'll be able to hear essentially a pretty good picture of what the compressed, bad streaming service stuff is sounding like. And then I can comment intelligently on it, and you can roughly hear what I'm talking about. That's the best I can do. But I think it'll still be useful, because you're not talking about like yourself hearing the magic qualities of what was already streaming. Then is, I don't know what to tell you. If you want to do good music, like get a guitar and an amplifier, and you'll be hearing get an acoustic guitar. That is the highest quality audio that you could ask for, is get some kind of acoustic instrument, and the sounds that you're making are going to be extremely immediate, free of aliasing, all of that kind of stuff. All of our stuff that we're doing on the internet is like cell phone grade trying to communicate. And the trying to communicate is the important part. I'm losing stuff off the top. Synesthesia, nope. If I downloaded Patreon SoundCloud songs, it's possible, but moderately doubtful. DC offset when saturation, well, saturation is never off if the plugin is engaged. And it brings in second harmonics when going either direction, because it'll make it more asymmetrical. And I suppose I could draw pictures of that. Honestly, I can explain how the DC offset thing is working by drawing pictures, and it'll relate to not one corner clip, single-ended triode as well. Analyzing dubstep. Okay, I can check out what that means. Raffle getting selected. You're not supposed to do raffles and things like Twitch or YouTube, but he's not giving away literally money, so that probably is fine. And there's online things, there's web things where you can post like a straw poll or something, or just random selecting of stuff. converter clipping. Converter clipping is a fairly respectable way to do straight up. It's as close as you can get to analog clipping from doing straight up clipping, because the way that you do converter clipping, you are clipping the analog sides of things, one hopes, at which point it's capturing at a very high rate, because that's how converters typically work. And then the software inside the converter is going to decimate it down to whatever frequency rate and bit depth you've got. But it's being captured as probably delta sigma capture, meaning that it's being captured as basically 1 bit, like 2 megahertz or something. And so what you do is if you clip that, it's going to have this digital output, and then the transform from digital down to like 2496 or 4416, whatever, is going to reject the aliasing, and you will end up with just the grittiest possible digital clipping, but without actually aliasing. And that is what clipping on the input of a converter does, and that's what it's for, and that's why people get into getting really high quality converters to do that with. It'll all depend. Like my 8010 seems to be pretty good at that. I have done a number of stuff where I'm clipping it one way or another, and it can certainly go super duper loud, and it doesn't seem to throw a lot of digital artifacts when I'm actually doing that. So there is that, but it's still clipping. You don't necessarily want clipping. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it cuts off the most important energy of the sound, because I think peak energy and headroom using that crest factor actively is super important. So yeah, people smashing by converter clipping, yeah, it's just clipping. All it's doing is killing your peak energy. If you like peak energy, you're not going to like it. Very simple. Gertschuld compact phasing phaser. Oh, I have a phaser in store. I just haven't gotten very far with it. I need to have better all passes and stack some of them and have them be modulatable, and maybe not even. I might be able to do a crude phaser by using all passes, and I'm pretty sure like analog phasers have often done this by using several different stages of their all passing or their filtering or simply delaying. And then there's an LFO, and it's fading different ones in and out rather than changing the delay time. So that can be what a phaser does, is you're overlaying different, like here's a close one, and then here's the next one, and here's the next one. Doing that can give a sort of the phasey effect, but it's not changing the delay times, and that might work. We'll see. And I did a Evergreen Zen Phaedra. I have not delved into Lua. I don't know when that would happen. Rennie mentions Neve emulation. That's on my radar. Honestly, when I get to doing a new console and target that, because there's the process of like doing dedicated consoles based on the colors of bus colors, one of which is a Neve color. And then there's also including these transformer emulations and things. Yeah. Eventually that's going to happen. It'll probably be real popular. People will probably really like it when I do that. Focus and Coal sounds awesome. Cool. Good. I don't know whether it would be better in parallel or serial. You should be able to do both. They're both pretty clean. I mean, it depends. It would be the same as doing a bunch of wet dry with them. I've been talked into using lots of wet dry much more often than I ever would have. I wouldn't have normally settled on that. Yeah, try series versus parallel. I can't give you the facility to do it in parallel, but other people can. For instance, BlueCat. Get BlueCat Patchwork if you want to do really complicated mosaics of different plugins. And my stuff will play along with that really well because Guillaume and BlueCat made a special point of supporting particularly my AUs really well. So there is that. Interesting. I have a request that, and Rene GUI VST, good. My brother might be helping me with that, so I can't even guarantee that that'll happen in 2020. There's no telling when I'm going to get that mastered, but it'll be very useful because at that stage I'll be able to start doing plugins and kind of revisiting them and maybe coming up with a different way of labeling them. And I'm still not quite sure whether I'll end up doing VST only or whether I'm going to be trying to also do sort of old school AUs with graphics. If anybody can figure it out, it's my brother could. And other people have tried and failed to do both VST GUI and audio units with the Coco model. Apple does things weird. People have found it very challenging to take that stuff on sometimes. Live music requests. You know, I got a... what the hell is the name of the thing? A Tip-Top Audio 1 sampler specifically for the purpose of being able to introduce acoustic drum samples. So this is not an unreasonable request. Basically what you're saying is, I like it when you have a real snare, and I like it when I have a real snare too. I have taken my snares from the collections that I make available. It's downloadable right on the Airwindows website. I have thought of actually making dedicated versions of these things where it's like, okay, to have this set, download this. And I've also thought about adding kick drums to the collection that I've got in that Tip-Top Audio, because what I've got is basically a set of snare hits that just sort of gradually increase in level to the beyond of the beyond. Because when I play drums, and the samples are me playing my drums and recording it my way, when I play drums, I can play them super duper loud. So I do have drum samples like that, and so can you, because you can download them. And I've been including it, but I haven't. I have a dedicated mixer channel that says snare, and it's the orange colored thing, and I've been including it and stuff. So what I would probably want, because I can do a fairly decent hi-hats and stuff with some of these other sounds and sound makers, I'd probably want to include a real kick too. And I don't think I'd need to include a dedicated additional sampler for that. Although if I did, I'd want to be getting another one of the Tip-Top Audio ones, because it seems to be accurate as far as triggering is concerned, and it has a nice super high resolution sound. That said, if you have lots of radio musics, you can use those for low resolution sampling that's maybe not as trigger accurate. And sometimes it drops ones, but within its intended use, that actually is good, because what it ends up doing is throwing a little variation in there by just glitching out occasionally. But yeah, I can throw more acoustic drum samples in there more. I have to get it all up and running. If you look at it, you can see that there are no cables in it right now, because I moved everything around again and I keep evolving it. And so before Tuesday, I need to start patching some stuff up. It might be a very simple, basic one, depending upon how much I've got set up. Certain things like the Moog with the Lyra on the Moog with the Lyra patched into it is up and running right now. So I could do a sort of Moog solo for an hour and 35 minutes. I don't propose doing that, though. I'm going to have some stuff patched up where I have beats and things happening. It reminds me of the Boston Modular get-together that I went to. Because that was pretty cool. Let me glance over. I have my own drum samples as far as you remember, and you can have them too. You can download them off of the Airwindows website. right up at top to the left. There's a link to that stuff. So you can have those drum samples too. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to incorporate stuff like that. I like it. DBX emulation, this is not unthinkable. I could get something like that. I don't have it right now, so don't expect it right now. But I have a rough idea of how DBX worked. I would need to know the time constants for the compression and expansion, but it's basically compression and expansion. And since you don't need to resist noise in digital, it becomes just sort of something else. Like what you're liking is either the sound of it or the sound of it when it's slightly misaligned. And that is certainly, these are doable things. I don't have the tools for that right now. I haven't heard you working in the same genre as I work in, David. So Ninjam being part of the music streams. Essentially, if I wanted to bring people into the stream, and you were the only person I've ever brought into a stream, David, you personally. I have had your voice in my streams. There are various problems with this. One of them is copyright issues. You're giving somebody an opportunity to, if they get into a fight with you in future, to like bomb your streams and be like, I own that voice and you cannot sample me and stuff. So it's asking for trouble. But it's also like, what are you going to play? What are you going to say? If I'm doing, is it going to be synchronized? Is it not? There's software along those lines. I'm not using that at this time. So yeah, keep that as a, do you want to incorporate, here's something that would be interesting. I've been wanting to include, let me just continue going. So DBX, no, not right now. Ninjam, you got to come up with other ways of doing it, and I would have to come up with like devices that connect to the internet and can stream audio through into a Eurorack channel and then start running stuff through that. I don't have that right now. I don't know what Ninjam is, so you're introducing me to that, but I wouldn't necessarily be doing it because it wouldn't necessarily synchronize things in a way that I find useful. Oh, Sheridan, you might have been the one who emailed me. I can tell you exactly how pitching the plugin ideas works. And this is something that I care deeply about and mean it. So you got to be able to do it the way I'm talking about or go elsewhere. You should pitch plugin ideas publicly to me when you're not going to be in some kind of... Remember, I'm an open source developer. Anything that I do goes up on GitHub as MIT licensed. It's not even GPL, it's MIT licensed. You can take it and make it GPL. You can take it and make it commercial as long as you credit me as having been part of that. MIT is the most lenient license short of the unlicensed. And I'm doing it that way on purpose. So you can pitch plugin ideas with the understanding that in talking about them, you're bringing them to the public domain. Other people can do them. Anything that I do, other people can do. I'm doing it specifically for the purpose of other people should be able to take some of this stuff and run with it. And also pitching plugin ideas to me doesn't mean that I'm going to do them. I'm less likely to do them if it's very specific and complicated thing that you think is going to be amazing. I'm more likely to do them if you're like, can we have this? It's just like with coils. I did focus because I had an idea for how that would work. It made coils possible. And somebody, rather than being like, you need to let us crank out the lows and highs instead. And I was like, that's a dumb idea. Instead, somebody showed me a picture of a transformer distortion curve. And I went, oh yeah, transformers distort and don't let you put the audio through as loud. So that would be, rather than the audio getting boosted up in the mids, it's restricting the frequency ranges so that they start to clip where the mid-range does not. And that's what coils is. The way of handling coils clipping is it's running into a density stage, which actually wraps around, and it's a simple sine function is what the density is. And it wraps around, so if you distort too much, it goes back down to making no sound again, and then inverted sound, because that's what the sine function does. And so, at normal level, like no boost, what you're getting is the exact signal coming in. If it's within normal range, like -1 to +1, all you're going to get is a very small amount of distort. Very subtle. And that's consistent with what a real transformer would be like. So if I was building it into other plugins, I'd be doing it in that way, where you just barely, you would hear it about as much as you'd hear it with the intensity all the way to 0. And it's still happening, but it's subtle. But when you start cranking that up, what you're doing is you're going, okay, amplify it going into this sine function, and then divide it coming out of the sine function, so that the ultimate effect is exactly the same volume level for stuff that is tiny. So essentially you're increasingly applying this sort of wrapping around distortion curve and making it kick in earlier and earlier. You're scaling the distortion against the audio. And that is what single-ended triode does to do offset. And here is where we can get into me drawing pictures, because that's how this works. So, audio and a sine wave distortion curve, where you get louder and it starts wrapping around to be clipped, or indeed going back down to 0 and back again. If you amplified, like if you took the input level and divided it by a gajillion, ran it through the distortion curve, and then amplified it again, you would wind up with the distortion curve looking like this. Your same volume level would go up to like yay high, but rather than hitting the point of total clipping, it would not even be there yet. And then subtle things, since you're amplifying it and then dividing it again, wind up being the same level on the output as it was on the input. You're scrolling up or down the scale of the distortion factor. And if you're doing the offsets, and the bug that I hit was I did the offset and then did the same offset on the back. What I needed to do was do the offset and then do the distortion curve and then do sine of the offset on the way back. You wind up with this. So this is your distortion curve, right? Your audio is like going through, and then your output winds up being a thing like this. So what if your audio started out here? What's going to happen is it can get only a little bit louder on this side, and then it will just clip. But it can get a whole bunch louder on this side. In fact, it's getting louder and louder as it gets to this point, and only starts clipping way up here. So if your waveform starts out like that, but the offset is way down here, your output becomes like this. It's changing this into a much more asymmetrical form, because the stuff on this side, which is offset way down here, is clipping much faster, and this is either not clipping at all or amplifying, and so it's exaggerating that. And that's where your second harmonic comes from. Your second harmonic comes from you're not symmetrical with the distortion function. So basically, the same thing. And yep, let me keep looking at the scroll because we keep going. The pitch and ideas and stuff. I'm an open book for ideas, but you need to pitch ideas to the community. There are other people other than me who are doing things, like Bo is doing stuff in Reaper, and people might watch this. You know, for all I know, I've got like Microsoft developers in here watching this, or there were some people at this modular synthesizer get-together that, you know, there apparently was a guy from Isotope. There was a guy from Microsoft there. We just hung out and talked. I couldn't tell which of them was which even. I could maybe research it. But, you know, people like that could conceivably be watching this. So maybe somebody would come up with a commercial plugin a year from now because you said something in here and somebody was watching the stream and just took it. That is fine with me. I'm doing stuff the way that I'm doing for that reason. And as far as the patchwork, as that's scrolling off the top of the screen, he didn't design patchwork with me in mind. He designed patchwork, and there was a problem with it being representing my plugins where it wasn't showing them right. And him being who he is, he responded by talking to me, and we debugged his stuff until it did show the plugins right and do exponential. You could tell it to do logarithmic frequencies, and it would do that. And everything that AUs could do, he added, so that Patchwork now handles all the generic AU special modes that you can make it do. So that's a very impressive performance. But it was never about me or my plugins. It just got bug fixed until it could handle generic AU super well. Merits and liabilities of using focus and coils in series and parallel. Try them, listen, see what it does. Coloration of companion, well, the reason people like DBX processing was because it did a better job of being noiseless tape. And there's something to be said for that. But there's also something to be said for it was a excessively, like, that's not a very clean tape recording. You're not going to get a lot of transparency out of it. But there's a sort of nice analog warmth to how it works, so there's that. And yeah, anybody can talk to me about Patreon. Go ahead and send me emails. It won't guarantee results because I can't do everything everybody wants, but I have not been overwhelmed with message volume on Patreon yet, so I generally can still respond to anybody who emails me. Might be quick, might be more in-depth, depends. And, oh yeah, Ahmed, you should definitely jam with David as far as that is concerned. And yeah, if you've got ideas that you want to pitch, you should talk about them here because this is a great place. This is a bunch of people interested in exactly that. Yeah, declickers and stuff are something that I could also do, but I don't have anything on the horizon right now. So yeah, I think people are chatting away like mad. Maybe I can tell you more about this Boston Modular, because if people want to meet me, that's probably a way of doing it, is find some physical place that I'm going and coordinate with that. There's a Boston Modular Synthesizers meetup group that I'm participating in, and I enjoyed their company, so I'll be going back. So that would be, it was Facebook and also a service called Meetup. And I was doing, I caught up with that. So that was the hours of driving that I was doing. There was a kid there who was like, I come from a jazz background, and I really liked it some of the earlier times. I've never been to this group before, but he was like, I liked it back when there were a couple of times and people brought all their stuff. I didn't realize I thought it was just a meetup. Everybody brought their gear. everybody brought weird little modular rigs and stuff, and they were struggling to find enough speakers. I had at least 2 sets of speakers that I could have brought from home, and I didn't think of it. Everybody was trying to synchronize with each other. I have a whole set of like Eurorack-sized cables that are basically AUX extension cables for truckers and passenger cars. Those 10-foot cables that you can get at like Staples. And I could have brought those and I forgot. So now I know. Now, like, bring all the potential sync cables you can use. Bring all of the additional amps and speakers and things, because that's what was going on. And it was super cool. And that one kid was like, I liked it when we used to have everybody turning on and playing their stuff at once. And it was like, oh my God, this is insane, but maybe it's kind of music. And I was like, yeah, that is my jam. I'd love to see that happen. So if I bring like my setup in whatever limited sense, like I have to come up with a audio a mixer that's not my studio mixer. And I would want to bring that and like throw a sync cable over so that I could hook up with this kid who comes initially from a jazz background, and we would just start jamming, because to me that's what would be fun, is getting on into that. It was also interesting because all the different personalities, like the kid was very gregarious. There was a bass player guy who brought a really snazzy new synthesizer that has only been released like this week, and was letting people play it. I thought I played keyboards like, certainly following other people's music that was happening. I thought I was doing that pretty well because that's kind of my jam. But the kid that I mentioned that was coming from jazz, he started a modular exploration, and it was all C minor. And then he modulated it to C major just at the end and followed it, and then went back to C minor again. I was like, okay, you just got my attention. You're thinking musically as well as just timbrally. So, yeah. So people wanting to catch up with me, you know, I can try to communicate that I'm part of a particular community and go and check that out. So I already don't do FFT, so I'm already not your guy for that. Oh, so you're talking about like the old Beatles thing where they cut up tapes in order to throw the cut up tapes in the air, piece them together in a patchwork so you'd have weird random changes. But you're talking about making it be more similar to what's going in database of others. Some of that is going to be very expensive to do, I can tell you, even without being able to do it. Similar amplitude frequency. You should try to talk to some of the Reaper people about doing that, because maybe you could do that in offline processing. I'm not the person to be able to do that because none of that is the areas I work in. But, that could be super fun, especially if you're breaking it up. So add this to your concept. I give this to you for free. Try breaking up your chunks in terms of beats and subbeats. Like if you have a rhythmic thing going on, break it up in terms of the grid. Break it up in terms of like 128th notes, or, maybe to 64th notes, something going really fast. And then if you have a snare hitting or whatever, your basic track, you're replacing like the beginning of the snare with like some explosion and the end of the snare with somebody's scream or whatever. And doing that, but just mosaicizing it like mad. Call it a mosaicizer. That's basically what you're talking about. I'm interested and would wish to subscribe to your newsletter. So you know something else I'm going to do before I literally run out of time, because I have to take care of myself and log off at the appropriate time, is I'm going to experiment with that SoundCloud thing before the time is completely up. I've got these funky little headphones that I can really... Okay, I fit these into my ears, and they're fairly good at blocking stuff out. And with this, I can fairly well hear what's going on. So the question becomes, are we hearing audio? It's not being patched through to iShowU audio capture. But maybe I can fix that. Open Pro Audio Control. So from computer should go to main L and main R. It's just actually on the loud side. I'll turn it back down again. Now let me see what I can make happen here. So that's going to the Toslink output. What about... Nope, that wasn't it either. Don't mind me. I'm just experimenting. Maybe I want to go to the analog. Nope, still not. To computer. Apply capture. There we go. We're back. So, So if I... No, I just killed myself again. Sorry. No, wait. I'm going through, but I just killed my audio output. That's no good. Let's reset. Oh, the frustration. You know, I'm going to maybe keep going in a couple of extra minutes because this is amusing and stupid the way this is working. And I've lost my other window too. So, Airwindows WEM copycat. I don't know what that is. I cannot code plugins for Mini. That's not going to happen. I don't have that going on at all. Yeah, so, yeah, I know you can hear me. Okay, so here's what's really interesting to me is, can I maybe get, so if I go to mixing, and I feel like that's not going to help me at all. I feel like that's not going to help me at all. You can't even see what I'm doing. This is ridiculous. I'll go over time if it comes to that. So I really want to figure this out now. Oh, wait. I bet I know. Hold the phone. Routing. We'll set to capture. Now let's see what happens. Oh, this is so loud. I'm going to blow you guys up for a second if this works. If I go to... Oh no. I killed it. There are no problems. Just other experiences. Wow. That's colorful. Now if I put this to, I show you audio capture. That's my main output. I put that on. And then what I'm going to need to do is go to Advanced Audio Properties. See, I figured this stuff out so you don't have to. And, well, I worry about this though. I think this might be a problem. Set that to monitor and output. Oh no, sorry. Sorry, but I cannot hear that. I cannot hear that. Okay, so I came up with a way of, wait, what if I set it to, I don't know what this aggregate device is, but we'll find out momentarily. Here is the audio. The aggregate device was nothing, was neither thing. Okay, so we're going to go into audio MIDI setup. See, I talked about this a little bit while I was getting the whole rig set up and learning how to use the camera and stuff. Sometimes I get to talk you through what my day is like as far as doing this kind of YouTuber thing. Sometimes it is, oh, hello. I show you audio capture is supposed to be both of these things and it is not. Very interesting. Okay, so never mind. That's useless. It was literally what I thought it would have to be. And it didn't work. Let's glance at the chat a little bit. Aggregate device did nothing. The goggles, they do nothing. So here, what we're doing, and I can't do that through that because that doesn't work. I can play this and select the 16A. So there's a copycat machine. So yeah, here we go. We have this playing. Do we even have audio preferences? No, we do not have audio preferences. That's not a thing. So it becomes, no, I did the setting of the aggregate device. It's in theory everything that I would need, except for it literally does not work at all. So instead, what I need to do is work within the Motu routing, because I've got AUXes and things. So it's the I show you there. I can hear stuff if it's the 16A, and I can send to the I show you. Oh, problem. And here's the thing. If I switch to the aggregate device so that you can hear stuff while it's playing, the 16A winds up getting nothing but the buffer that is repeating itself. So there's your problem. And the only way to make Chrome play through to the stream is to have it send to the system out, which is I show you, and that functions. That's also the way to get anything else happening. So now what I'm going to do is play the space ambient music. Hopefully it's not too loud. And now I'm going to try to set the 16A so that I can hear what it's doing. I see it showing up somewhere. But that should be on the Toslink inputs, though. So my outs are here. They were set to monitor 16 and 17, so now. Okay, I can set it up so that I can hear my own voice. Trouble is, I don't see the other inputs on there anywhere, so I'll tell you what. Let's go from capture to go back to capture, and you can hear me again. Jack is for Linux, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. Hey, I'm glad that Guitar Conditioner is working for you. So we're going to keep struggling here until I can hear what you're hearing, because you are now hearing some of my crazy space ambient stuff, and I can't. So our next option is going to mixing and figuring out what can be done here. Yes, there might be not a lot. Me, okay. I have line in. Just a moment. Line in is not optimized for your Mac. It needs to be updated. Piss off, Apple. Stop it. Line in. Ah! This was the secret. I guess I haven't used this for a while, but this was part of the trick. I boot up line in, and it immediately says, input from I show you audio capture, output to 16A. Hit it. Oh hey, I get only one channel. Let's fix that, and now it's stuck. Well, that's amusing. Damn, son. It's colorful. Okay, so I can get one. Is it my headphones broken? No. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix that. You can hear me, and you can hear the output, but my I show you audio capture is epically broken at this stage. It is not happy at all. Oh no no. Okay, so I can output to 16A in a different way. I'm just fooling with different output device settings. How about if I tell I show you to be default in all cases? What about that? Oh, and it's 1718. Now wait about it. I think this might be working. I'm not quite sure. One thing that is happening is as soon as I shut it off, 16A is a loop. It is absolutely broken. Let's go to the advanced again and specify the channels explicitly this time. Okay, it's a little confusing. No. It's the I do like Apple. It's just that what I'm doing is tricky, and combining all these different audio interfaces with each other is part of what's happening. So let's call that a win. I have to leave line in running. Get out of there and go to a different Airwindows thing and see whether I'm hearing all of my channels. So in theory, okay, I think we win. What you're able to hear now, although granted, it's kind of at full volume level, so if I needed to turn it down, I might want to do something about that. I could kick in bit shift gain perhaps, or something like that, or just attenuate it. Oh, hello, hi, and why are you saying, oh no, I've got it working finally? I'm doing window capture in OBS Studio. That's why that's why we're seeing you. Portal capture. And then boop, experimental. SoundCloud is not giving you a volume control, but it is giving us SoundCloud. So essentially, I can now play anything off of the internauts by doing this. What I gotta do is set the default signal to that, and then I gotta run line in. I'll make a little note. And for that matter, let us go to that's kind of intense. Now we can turn that way down. So presumably you're hearing this. This is from one of my live streams. Currently, I'm basically fiddling with knobs there. But yeah, one way I can do it is to just change the level of the I show you. A bunch of space. Here's a bunch of techno. So at this stage, and I wonder whether, yeah, I can make that stream much quieter anyhow. So at this stage I can go anywhere on the internet where people have music that I can play in a browser, and I can stream that. I just have to remember to use line in so that I can hear it. And when I shut off the line in, it will, well, here's an interesting question. What happens if I change it back from I show you to 16A? I'm still hearing it, but you're not. Okay. That is the acceptable answer. So we're going to quit out a line in now. And get rid of the SoundCloud window there. Oh, hello, that's interesting. It looks different now. Yep. So scroll is now caught up. And Elohim was just joking with me. No footage from the modular event. Several of the people there either did got their cell phones out when people started playing, or did recordings of their own stuff. So I could, basically it's just a little get together, and people are SoundClouding their things and stuff. So essentially that's what's going on. It was a very little casual get together with people making music for each other or just hanging out and talking. So Elohim again with the tape module things. You know, one of the things I'm going to want to do is come up with a really big tape buffer and then work out how to do proper moving heads across it at different speeds so that I can really modulate the speed of pickup. And I need a new algorithm for how I'm doing this. I'm doing delays in a very efficient algorithm that's not expensive computationally, but doesn't handle pitch changes. So all this stuff you're talking about, pitch changes, becomes impossible. Have to do a new way of doing it. But yeah, so I think we're all caught up. I've got some notes about things like whittlers. I no longer need these phones to be in my ears. However, I will tell you, being the cute little Grados, they were bought for the purposes of being able to do serious critical listening. And I can tell you that with them stuck super deep into my ear canals the way that was, I got a nice full range, like I'll be able to hear extreme low bass and a good big sound stage on that quite well. So I will be able to critically listen using those. And that means I can listen to your stuff and go like, oh, hey, did you realize that your 10 hertz is flaking out on you? Because I'll hear it. That's handy. And that's good. That's good. That means that this can work when it's time to work. I'll just need to be able to do the raffle thing or get somebody offering up their stuff. And then we'll go and explore it. I'll start playing things. And because it's useful for... Maybe I'll make a whole new scene. I do not use anything for the earbuds. They're straight off of the Lavry D10. I'll set up a whole new scene in OBS maybe, which will show the window for Chrome. And so you can see where I'm at and what I'm playing. Sounds like this was a good work day for the stream. I've got a bunch of stuff to do. I never did show you how the synthesizer went, but it's getting on towards 1. I've done my hour and 35 minutes, so that's all cool. I had to punch in the stream key again, because apparently that's just how that works. And YouTuber dicks, and making me go through lots of extra unnecessary work that I really don't need if I want to have multiple different kinds of streams that are different types. And I have a bit of an announcement as far as future things, which is I am making progress on being able to do the just hang out with Chris in Minecraft, but also be able to talk on voice. So if you're wondering why your voice is not on the stream, guess what? It could be on a stream. There will be a place that you can go where it won't be showing chat, but I'll be able to let you get into the audio chat, because I'll be doing the Minecraft thing. That's mostly an excuse for me and a few friends to get together and just derp around at a regular time and talk. And we're all creators in various ways, so we'll be talking about all manner of wacky stuff. And it's going to be on Wednesdays towards the evening, so it might be like 6 to 9 or something like that. Probably going to be going for 3 hours or so, because it takes a while to do it. The Minecraft map is one that I have devised, that I've been researching how to do a good seed for this, something that's really going to work out. I have found the seed. It's one that we've never played on. We're going to be running the Snowball Madness mod, meaning that it could be, build stuff in regular or use these weird new technologies. We'll be audio talking, we'll be art talking, we'll be painting or drawing or computer modeling or cinematography talking, just all of the above, whatever. And the stream will be on Wednesday evenings like that. We're all able to commit to that. And the Minecraft server, well, it will partly just be hanging out there. It's also going to be, we'll get together and build stuff, and so that's what our attention will be some of the time. But that server will only run during our streaming. It's in a laptop over there, and I will shut it down when we're finished streaming. What that means is that when people want to build on this server and participate in our stuff, they have to actually come and log on at the same time that we're streaming live and showing what's happening there. Probably be in the same place, although that's not a requirement. And You'll also be able to log on to TeamSpeak, because TeamSpeak is what we'll be using for the chat. I've come up with a way of patching it through so that it can be heard on the stream as well. Hopefully we won't get trolled too hardcore, but it's not like the stream has to be child-friendly, so that doesn't really worry me terribly much. And once we finish doing the streaming and finish doing whatever Minecraft stuff we're all doing together and talking together, we log off and the server switches off, so there will be no capacity for coming on and breaking everybody's stuff while we're away, or building all kinds of stuff while we're away. So it becomes more of a shared experience, whether it ends up being more focused in Minecraft or just hanging out or talking about things. It'll all kind of, work together. And the specifically building with blocks side of things will happen in a way where you're literally going to be able to see all of it, and then nothing is going to be happening outside of the window of us doing it. So it's really more of a sharing the whole experience rather than coming on and seeing what people built during the week while you were away. Because that's neat, but I have like a totally other server where that happens. And this is more of a community-based thing for getting together with people. It's not even my Patreon patrons. It's like me getting together with some friends that I never see. And we're going to commit to doing some of that. So you're welcome to join it. If you're watching this stream, or if that seems interesting to you, then talk to me. I don't think it's necessarily even going to be a patrons only thing, because honestly, like, these friends of mine aren't on my Patreon, nor are they using plugins and stuff. But it's like people who are interested in joining this crew. So you don't have to be a patron to join or anything like that. And we'll see how it happens. It's been, as you might imagine, a lot of painful, awkward work setting it all up, because everything seems to be that. Even doing a stream now, you wind up having to punch in a new code every time, and it's just a merry carousel of hell. But you get used to that kind of stuff, and we'll figure it out eventually. So yeah, I'll let you know when that starts happening, or it'll just start happening. And the time at which it will start happening will be Wednesday evening. And I may or may not have a premieres for this kind of stuff. That's one of the things that I really need to learn to do, is put in the scheduled stuff so that you can see when something is going to go live a little bit. I've fallen way out of sync with that. Part of it is because I just stopped doing it. Part of it is because YouTube's changing their interface all the time, and everything is different and set up differently. And the more they do that, the less I can use their system. But there is some kind of thing about, like, you can start the stream and then schedule it for future reference. And I still don't know whether you can do that and then go away and come back and be able to use the interface of the thing. But whatever. Thanks, YouTube, for making my life a living hell. And with that, I will close your window. Boop. Did that close your window? Yeah, no, yes, no. I popped your window out. I don't know what that did to it. I think your window is still stuck at whatever it was captured on. So we'll fade the window that is no longer updating. And I'll talk to you all later. And hopefully I'll have some kind of music going on for the Tuesday. And eventually we'll start doing different kinds of streams. A double stream Wednesday. Beginning of the day from 11 or so on, it'll be playing your music and talking about it in the Evergreens way. And then the end of the day, we'll be getting together with friends and doing the Minecraft thing. And we'll see how that works out. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.